The presiding officer is Major General Michael E. Stenzel, the Adjutant General of the Oregon National Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of ruffles and flourishes, the national anthem, and the invocation by Chaplain Bob Evans. Chaplain Edwards, would you please come forward for the invocation?
Two scriptures came to mind when thinking about this promotion ceremony, both from Proverbs 21. I'd like to read them to you. The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will. And later, to do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. With that in mind, would you join me in prayer? Ever living and sovereign God, we come to this place in a state of thankfulness, but also confession. We are thankful for the opportunities like this day and this time and this promotion grant us. And if we're honest, we must confess that even though we have many giftings and abilities and education, we still need your help. For General Unruh, as he picks up this momentous mantle now, we ask that you would guide his heart with your divine hand and help him to truly do this work with a keen sense of righteousness and justice, fearing you in a good and right way. We ask that in the right moments and at the right time you would provide him everything which he will need to accomplish this role: wisdom, thoughtfulness, courage, charity, resolve, or restraint, and all else that's necessary. Bless his desire to do this. Bless the work of his hands, and may it honor you, and let others know that you care about them. For his family, we ask a particular blessing, knowing that great sacrifice that family must make, and the accolades that they often do not receive. May your blessing be with he and his family as they take this next step in the journey ahead. For those gathered here, we ask your blessing. For those downrange and in harm's way, we ask for your watchful hand. And as we've just passed the anniversary of a year of war in Ukraine, we ask for a swift and a certain end of the conflict, and for conflict anywhere. And we can ask only this in your powerful and holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Edwards. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, I would like to recognize some very special family members with us today. Colonel Unruh's wife, Suzanne Unruh, and Colonel Unruh's father, David Unruh. I would also like to introduce our distinguished guests in attendance with us today. Please hold your applause until all names have been announced. Brigadier General Mark Crosby, Commander of the JDOT. Brigadier General Donna Prigmore, Commander of the Oregon Air National Guard. And Colonel Todd Hofford, Commander of the 142nd Wing. Additionally, we welcome all other commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, retirees, friends, and family who have taken the time to share in this special occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce the presiding officer for today's ceremonies, Major General Michael E. Stencil, the Adjutant General.
All right, I'll try to shout out here. Can you hear me in the back all right? Give me a thumbs up if I need to go higher. Welcome, everybody. General Prigmore, General Crosby. But most of all, I think some of the folks out there on the cameras that are remote in Oklahoma. But Suzanne and Mr. Unruh, thank you so much for making this long flight out here. I know this has been as long a journey for you as it has been for your husband and son. If you haven't seen it already, I'm not sure if it's in the program or not. There's 7 kids at home that I think are probably all watching this. And their mom, most importantly, is sitting here. How'd you feel comfortable walking away? They're grown-up adults and everything now. But it's, we talked about beforehand, just the big lift that she's endured in helping you get here today. And I think you'll probably hear from him as well the tremendous impact that Mr. Unruh had in terms of steering him in this direction and helping him get where he is today. But, you know, it's home away from home, we'll call it, I guess, is Oklahoma. We don't like to talk about places other than Oregon for occasions like this. We've adopted him for sure, and he's adopted us, and we're fortunate to have him. But, you know, born in Oklahoma, I went back to Texas, and then ultimately came back to Eden, where he's living today. But this whole thing started out with an education where him and Suzanne met at Baylor University, where he started out with a bachelor's in aviation. From that, he, much later down the road, in 2011, went and got his master's in church history. Later on, not long after that, a PhD in apologetics, and then followed that with a doctorate in theology, all of them from Newburgh Theological Seminary. But then apparently that wasn't diverse enough. Had to get one more high-level degree in getting his JD in 2018 from Regent University Law School. So that in itself, you know, talking about beforehand, a typical guard career in contrast to a civilian career, it's like having a job and a half. On top of that, he goes and throws on pursuing these degrees, wing command on top of that. What an incredible lift to carry on through that endeavor. But he started out at UPT Advance. He was so, I was going to say so good. So, yeah, that's appropriate. He came back as a fake. And for everybody here that flies, there's a level between good and greatness. It's a really fine line when you're picking out who's going to be a fake. But he could have been actually the greatest, second greatest, because the greatest guy gets to pick, or gal gets to pick. And, you know, we didn't talk about that, but being a FAPE, I think at the time, the friends that I know and folks that have done it, when you get that assignment, imagine there's probably a little bit of a, oh man, I'm coming back. But what I found at the end of my career is when I meet folks like Dan that have taken that role on, they're better for it, and we're all better for it. And we see it again later on when he comes back to Klamath Falls after, actually, I would talk a great assignment where he certainly proved himself. We went off, had an opportunity to go fly F-15, stayed at Unruh Air Force Base up in Alaska, and what a, geez, I can't think of a more beautiful, enjoyable place to have an operational mission. And then again, he was so good, ended up at Tyndall as an IP, and then transitioned again Brig.Gen, saw the opportunity to come up to Klamath Falls. And then continuing to look to broaden, somehow got the attention of ACC, got an opportunity to go back there as a guardsman, and I'm too many to memorize here, but Chief A&G 5th Gen Fighter Branch, F-35 Systems Management Office, A&G Advisor to the Director of Air and Space Operations, Chief A&G Special Access Program Management Office, and Director of A&G Forces. It may seem like a small thing, but you're down there as an 06, having to represent a large part of the Air National Guard enterprise. I can tell you it's well enough, or did well enough, that even the Director of the Air National Guard is already asking, hey, well, what can we get down out there to help us out again in that arena. And then here in this interim, before he got here, initially started out at Alaska Airlines, ended up going down a different path, ultimately got hired by UPS. So as he's been out there, kind of been in no man's land, picked up the civilian capabilities as well. So when you look at all this, I just mentioned kind of being out here in no man's land. When you look at, we've been talking a lot, recruiting, retention, and everything, and the propensity to serve. That in itself, and not knowing what the outcome is going to be, as you go through this couple-year process of technically formally retired, and then we go through, I'll call it a nut roll. Just the struggles of trying to get the approvals and all this thing through, and the implications for him is like, hey, how's it going? It's going good. It's going bad. Well, we think it's a done deal. Hey, it should be done in March. Well, no, we're looking at June. And that's how the discussion has gone for him over the last 2 years. And it takes tremendous fortitude to see it out, as well as sacrifice, now on his part to take on this rank. So I want to acknowledge that as well. I think everybody here has heard me talk about leaders being learners. If you didn't catch it in the depth of his education, holy cow. I've often been a fan of a broad liberal education, and it's not about the pay. There certainly aren't endeavors that are getting him more money. He's already got a commitment to where he's going to be with the airlines and here with us. But the breadth of that experience and everything teaches you how to think, how to collect your thoughts, and actually how to make huge contributions and mentor folks and do all those things that aren't so much tangible and concrete that help you be a better officer and a better leader. And then you look at the breadth of the assignments. Again, boy, UPT, I may jest of being a favor coming back there, but it's an incredible experience. And it tells you how to communicate for the folks that are, a totally new experience, and how do you get from A to B, and it looks daunting. He's able to simplify it and instill those thoughts and make something that's challenging be simple. Again, followed it up again at Klamath Falls, and he ultimately came back and got the opportunity to put that all into practice as the ops group commander and ultimately the wing commander at the 142nd Fighter Wing, where he knocked it out of the park. And then with that recognition down, I can't think of any good reason not to pull. Highly deserving. It's my honor to preside over your ceremony. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, General Stencil. We will now proceed with the promotion of Colonel Unruh. Colonel Unruh, please join General Stencil front and center. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand.
What's the order?
Attention to orders. The President of the United States, acting upon the recommendation of the Secretary of the Air Force, has placed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, integrity, and abilities of Colonel David Unruh. In view of these special qualities and his demonstrated potential to serve in the higher rank, Colonel David Unruh is promoted to the rank of Brigadier General, United States Air Force, effective 30 April 2022, by order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as Brigadier General Unruh will now reaffirm his oath of office.
All right, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, David Neal Unruh,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Oregon
and the Constitution of the State of Oregon
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States
I will obey the orders of the President of the United States
and the Governor of the State of Oregon,
and the Governor of the State of Oregon,
that I make this obligation freely,
that I make this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of Brigadier General
the duties of the office of Brigadier General
in the Air National Guard of the State of Oregon,
in the Air National Guard of the State of Oregon,
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Please be seated. Throughout the history of warfare, a general officer's flag, belt buckle, and pistol have symbolized command on the battlefield. The general officer's belt and buckle are symbols of the great responsibility he will be entrusted with. The buckle has the seal of the United States of America to remind the general of his country. General Pridmore will now present General Unruh with the belt and buckle.
Pleasure for you.
Throughout modern history, general officers have carried a pistol in battle. This pistol represents the great responsibility that this new rank and position endures. General Pridmore will now present General Unruh with the pistol. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as we now honor Brigadier General Unruh with his first ruffles and flourish. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Brigadier General David Unruh. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. General Unruh, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Get the point in the script where you have the ability to, it says something like, the general will comment on the promotion at this point, and you kind of think to yourself, what sort of comments are appropriate on promotion at this point? And I think, as I reflect on those, I think the first thing we start with is thanks. And we think we're all part of one another, but there's certainly a hierarchy of things that we owe debts of gratitude towards. And so first, I thank God for the opportunity to stand here before you. I thank my wife Suzanne, my father David. I thank some very, very important people to me. I'd like to say thank you to Emily, to Allison, Heather, Lisa, David, William, and John, my 7 children. I'm an only child. I didn't come from a super big family, but lots of cousins and whatnot growing up. And I tell you, for those of you that are parents, you understand there's a certain, I think as you become a parent of children that grow up, you maybe appreciate your folks a little bit more for all the things they invest in you and the concern and the love and all that. And to all of them, I wish we, like many times, I wish we could all be together at once. But I want to say thank you to them, because they, over their young lives and now their young adult lives, have followed Suzanne and I as we've moved all the different places that General Stencil is. Next, I'd like to thank General Stencil, Generals Prigmore and Crosby, and all the leaders here in the Oregon Guard that have mentored me, that have frankly taken a risk sometimes on an unknown leader as each you take that next step of responsibility. I think in some ways it's like being a parent, right? There's risk and there's the unknown, but you recognize traits in a person and you give them the opportunity and the mentorship and the leadership. And so thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I'd also like to thank everyone that's invested throughout my life and my Air Force career, my civilian career. As I look and I see friends and family and mentors, instructors, people that have spent evenings with me on their couch, talking through different issues. People that have worked with me. As we look at even the ceremony, you see all the folks that are walking around making the logistics happen. This is an illustration that we are all part of one another. It takes the entire team. And sometimes we define that differently. Sometimes we define a team in terms of a family. Sometimes we define it in terms of our unit. And sometimes we think about our community. But we're not independent of each other. Years ago, the poet John Donne said, "No man's an island," right? That no one is an entity unto themselves. That we are all part of a continent. We're all part of one another. We don't exist floating around out in an ocean by ourselves. That we all have some investment in one another and frankly, some aspect of gratitude, some aspect of responsibility, some aspect of duty towards one another. So I guess today, I would ask you to remember the people, and I have kind of a vignette that I like to think about in terms of promotion. When I made Major, I was promoted to Major in the 2nd Fighter Squadron at Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida. And I can remember all the faces, the people I served with that day, and that building's not there, that squadron's gone, and that base is almost gone after the hurricane. And the people have certainly moved on. If you've been in the military for any time, I think General Stencil was talking about this morning, you get a fairly rapid turnover. If you go to a unit that you served in 3, 4, 5 years ago, you may walk in the door and they don't know who you are, right? Because the place continually turns over. But the people that you get a chance to serve with at the time, that you get to impact their lives and they get to impact your lives, are important. So on times where it's a promotion, whether it is a promotion, a retirement, a change of command, on times like that, or times like these rather, I think of the people that I get the opportunity to serve with, to work for, and you sort of, or I sort of think, how does that all fit together? I don't have an answer for you, but I have an example. There's an example. There's about 3,500 years ago, there was a philosopher walking across the beach. His name was Anaximander. And he said, "What do all these pebbles have to do with the seashore?" Right? His question became what's called in philosophy, the question of the one and the many. And I don't know that, I certainly haven't read all of classical philosophy's exhaustive thoughts on that, but the answer I don't think came until a different era in the period of history when the Greek society declined and the Roman society arose. And while the Romans may not have had maybe the intellectual fortitude that some of the ancient Greek philosophers had, they did have a lot of practical talent. And the Romans took this thing called cement, which is a homogeneous, white, rigid, chalky substance. It's very strong, very fragile. It breaks a lot. And they took it and they mixed this pile of rocks called aggregate, which is very diverse, not shaped, doesn't have the same shape, same size, same color, comes from different backgrounds. And they put those two things together, and they took that diversity and cemented it together in a unity of purpose. And they built roads that formed an empire that ruled the world that you can still walk on today. And so when we think about our unity and diversity, what do we all have to do with one another here? What are our common interests? What are our common relationships? I don't know. In fact, I don't know that we can necessarily run those all to ground. But I think one thing that is common in the experience of humanity is that where we find strength, where we find things that we can build that last, is where we find the diversity of people in a unity of interest. In fact, during the Renaissance, we called that a university, right? And so we took a diversity of educational backgrounds into a unity of learning, right? And of course, we still use that word today, right? We find a unity of diversity. So when we're promoting, when we're serving the next higher grade, we think about what does it mean to be a general officer or a commander, or if you're being promoted to staff sergeant, whatever it is. You ask yourself, what do I want to build that will last? How do I invest in somebody's life that matters more than just, later this afternoon? And I think it's trying to find ways that we can serve one another to find that unity of purpose within a diversity of people, experiences, backgrounds, and put them together in something that's going to outlast ourselves. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go build Roman roads or any of that kind of stuff. It's just a metaphor. But as we think about that, I also want us to remember another truism, that we often as humans confuse simple with easy and complex with hard. Well, complex is often hard, but we confuse simple with easy. And so if you would like to bench press 400 pounds, I have a very simple plan for you over the next 8 weeks, but it's very hard, right? It's very hard work, right? So just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy to do. If you want to use the metaphor of the Roman roads to mix concrete together, or if you want to use maybe something that hits a little bit closer to home for those of us in the military, is how do I take this group and how do I form a team? How do I as a general officer, or how does a young section lead, or how does a flight commander articulate a unity of purpose and make sure that leader, that airman, reaches into the lives of those people that he or she is leading and finds how they can mix them together to form that unit, to move them in a direction that's going to build something that lasts beyond our tenure, that lasts beyond our immediate needs. And that's really the skill of leadership. And I'm not certainly, I don't want to, there's hours we could spend talking about leadership, but I think the one element that I would leave you with that I've thought about during this promotion, or as leading up to this promotion, is a very old proverb, almost as old as the Anaximander question. It's about 3,000 years old. The proverb says in English something like, "Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it's in the power of thine hand to do it." Right? It's a proverb, right? So you have to apply it to your but the idea of due means there's a duty. If you have a duty, you can have a duty to do things like honor. You can have a duty of kindness. You can have a duty of fidelity, right? Like a parent to their children. Could be, maybe reverence to God. Maybe it could be obedience to the civil authorities. It could be duty to care for your fellow airmen. It could be a duty to yourself. It could be a duty to forbear. Maybe I have a duty sometimes to forego my personal interest or my personal desire for the better of my family, or for the better of my unit, or for the better of filling the group. But whether it's our relationships laterally, whether it's our citizenship aspect, whether in the civil sphere or the military sphere, or even just our self-government, right? We have all sorts of duty. And I think one of the things that answers the question of how do I formulate something like building an idea of unity within a diverse group, within a diversity of experience and a diversity of skills and strengths and backgrounds. I think one of the ways that we can ask ourselves, one of the ways that I promise or contract with you in this new role, is to start the morning, looking in the mirror, to end the day when I'm reflecting on the day's events right before I fall asleep, and just to ask myself, have I done my duty? Have I done the duty to whom it is due? And I know myself well enough. The answer to that's probably, from time to time, it'll be no, because I'm not a perfect person, just like, well, the rest of us. But the answer, it's not a quiz to try to get 100%. It's a rule or a methodology for how to serve one another, how to create that unity and diversity, how to forge something that's going to last beyond ourselves. So ceremonies remind us to be thankful. They remind us that we have a piece of each other. They remind us that we want to build something that's going to last beyond tomorrow or next week. If I want to build, what we used to use the term to build a legacy. Sometimes that can sound a little bit self-serving, but I think you guys know me well enough to know what I mean. To build something that's going to endure, that's going to have meaning for not just yourself, but those around you, that we have to ask ourselves, have we done our duty? So my thoughts on this promotion, as you take the next step in any military system, any civilian promotion, whatever it is am I really being honest with myself about doing my duty to the people that are laterally related to me, the people that are superior to me, subordinate to me? Have I done duty to myself? And when the answer is no, am I willing to do what it takes tomorrow when I get up to do the right thing and to do my duty every day? And so my commitment to you is also my request. My commitment to you is that every day that the General Stinson, the leadership allows me to serve as a general officer in Oregon, is that I will do my best to do my duty. And my request of you is to hold me accountable, because I want to do my duty, and I want to do it well. I want to serve you, I want to serve with you, and I want to build something together in whatever role we have. Sometimes building something sounds like, a grandiose construction project. But sometimes you just need to build up your fellow airman that's working through a hard time. Sometimes you need to be built up, because you're the one, whatever, having to go through the struggle. And so my request to you is that you reflect on this, and you've all been very gracious to listen to me speak about what I was feeling, but I do mean it from the heart. And as I know my heart, my desire is that if any part of this resonated with you, that you would take a part of that and you would say, what is my duty? How do I participate in those lives around me? How do I function within, whether my military unit, my family situation, my community, et cetera, to such a degree that I can build a unity and diversity of all those relationships, and I can participate in building something that's going to last beyond my promotion ceremony or beyond my tenure of service. How do I invest in the kind of people that, so when you get to come back one day, because I've been retired for about 10 months, and it's if you haven't been retired, it's different. And I saw this, and this is what caused all the last 8 or 9 minutes of this talk. Is I retired and left the 142nd for a while, and I got to come back yesterday and got a new ID card and filled out my first term airman paperwork and did all the things you do, and I got to see people that I got to see people that are doing things that are, you see people they're promoting, they're in different levels of responsibility, they're doing different jobs, and they're doing great. I got to walk into Tupac's office, and he's got the place running, and you go, wow, this is, and it's not about any one individual. It's not about Tupac. It's not, or the last guy, who that character was, right? It's about the people you get to serve with, and you get to see something that lasts more than just the current evaluation or the current goal or the current drive, and it's really rewarding. So, maybe this is hopefully this hasn't been a waste of your time, but take it from someone that's gotten to see just a little glimpse of what it looks like to come back and see what a great experience it is to build. Take that with you, apply it how you will. My intent is to do my duty, and my advice to you is to pick that up, because if no one's an island, if every person is a part of one another, and we're all doing our duty as best we can, as much as we ought to ourselves and to our fellows around us, I don't think we can fail. So thank you for being here. Thank you to my friends, my families, my colleagues, my leaders. Thank you for this opportunity. I do not take it lightly, and I look forward to serving with you.
Thank you, General Unruh, and congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for celebrating this wonderful occasion with General Unruh, his family, and the Oregon National Guard. Please stand by for the playing of the Air Force Song. Immediately following this ceremony, Major General Stencil invites you to congratulate Brigadier General Unruh in a receiving line.
Do my duty. Into the wild blue yonder, flying high into the sun. Here they come, soon to meet our thunder. Give her the gun. Down the dash, spouting the flame from under. Off with one hell of a roar. We live in fame or go down in flames. Nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
This concludes today's ceremony. Thank you for attending and have a wonderful